Online with Amr The Internet Guy. Stream it today on your favorite podcast platforms. This podcast focuses on entrepreneurs and business owners, helping them become more successful in conducting their business on the web without being stuck with technology, getting a headache, pulling their hairs out, or buying expensive software.
Hi everybody, and welcome to another episode of Online. Today I have a special guest with me all the way from New Jersey. She is a certified personal trainer and fitness coach, specializing in women fitness as well as seniors wellness and fitness. It was an eye-opener for me to learn more about the wellness and fitness goals once you hit the 40 years mark, and how are they different from those goals when you're younger than that. We discuss lots of interesting stuff about, those of us who are over 40, and we're also discussing how to pivot when you're a trainer and a coach. Like many of the trainers, personal trainers and coaches of all kinds, were doing face-to-face until COVID hit and they had to close and everybody had to rush and pivot online. So today, my guest is going to be telling us her story, how she pivoted, what worked, what didn't. And this is important for any of you guys who are thinking about pivoting online and growing your coaching, training business online. So without further ado, let's meet Jill. Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the podcast Online. I have Jill Whalen here with me from New Jersey. Hey Jill.
Hello. Hi Amr, how are you?
All good, thank you. So tell us about the snow first, because today is the day.
So yes, well, we didn't get that much more today, but yesterday it came down. We had about 16 or 18 inches. So yeah, it was
That's
a snowy day. It was a lot of snow, but I was actually able to work because of Zoom. So normally it would have been a day off or a snow day and not working, but
let's hope there's no wind so we don't lose electricity.
Yes. Well, I said to a client today, we have everything is pretty much underground here now. So hopefully there shouldn't be any problems with the wires.
Yeah, you're right. Fiber optics are usually buried or they put them in their own pipes.
Yep. Yeah.
And it's glass, so it's going to take like a lot of power to knock it out.
Yeah. Well, let's hope it doesn't happen, right?
So Jill, what do you do?
So I am a certified personal trainer and fitness coach, and I have multiple certifications in the fitness industry, primarily working with seniors and women. I have my certification as a senior fitness specialist and a women's fitness specialist. And I've been doing this about almost 20 years. I've been teaching classes and working with clients. And now I solely do the personal training.
So I didn't know that you can specialize in a specific age group or a specific gender. So what are the differences? Like I'm assuming when I say seniors, I can get the idea because they're more fragile. You can't give them like something difficult or.
So interestingly enough, when you do a senior fitness specialist certification, the classification for seniors is anyone age 50 and up, which I don't know about you, but that's a really big age range.
I wouldn't refer to myself as a senior, but here you go, getting there.
Right, exactly. So it's a really big age range, and it can vary. So in that specialty, they do talk a little bit more about the health conditions that would affect you as you age, blood pressure and cardiovascular disease and lung issues and arthritis and, that kind of stuff. But if you're dealing with a 50-year-old or a 55-year-old or even a 60 or 65-year-old, sometimes they don't have any of those issues that prevent them from doing anything. But sometimes they do, right? So I've worked with, I have several clients who do have blood pressure issues or, diabetes issues. I've had clients that have had hip surgery and knee surgery.
Oh God, yes.
And arthritis, as well as some things like Parkinson's and, they're recovering from cancer. So when you talk about a senior specialist, you're talking more in depth about that. Interestingly enough, you can actually get a cancer exercise specialist certification as well, or a Parkinson's or MS. So there's lots of specialties in the fitness industry, which is great, because there's a lot of people that need
Which many people don't
assistance.
know about.
Right. Yeah. A lot of people don't know about.
They just see the title, personal trainer. Okay. But
Yeah.
they don't know.
Right. You're right. And if somebody is recovering from cancer, they're now encouraged, right? I mean, years ago they were encouraged to just take it easy and not do anything, but now the research has shown that physical activity is one of the best things
Of
that you can
course,
do.
yeah.
So, but there's obviously different types of cancer and different surgeries and different treatments, and so you want to be mindful of what somebody that's recovering from breast cancer surgery versus colon cancer. So there's lots of in-depth certifications that you can get.
And then when you say specialized in women exercise, so
yes, well, I don't know.
What
if
do
you
the
know
ladies
this.
want differently?
Well, I don't know if you know this, but women are different than men.
Are they? Oh my God,
yes,
no.
it's crazy. And well, what's I
Is
found
it the
really
goals?
interesting.
Like what's like?
So this is my passion, because in the fitness industry, again, I've been doing this almost 20 years. It's always been like, you need to do, exercise more, eat less, work out really hard, and an hour a day, every day, and that kind of stuff. Well, when you're a woman in her late 30s, early 40s and on up, that does not work. And a lot of the research is now coming out that it shows it doesn't work. Most of the research in fitness is done on men. And not just men, but young men, right? You think about where studies are done; they're usually done on college campuses.
Athletes,
Right? Athletes.
They don't study regular people; they just study
right
the highest performers.
Exactly. Not just the highest performers, but these like amazing specimens of humans, right? But they're usually men, and the reason is men's hormones don't vary like women's do. And recently I was reading a book, and it had a foreword and introduction by a doctor who does cardiovascular research, and he wanted to do a study on menopausal women. And the study was rejected because there was no men included as a control. And he said, but it's a study
men don't
on
get menopause, so like what?
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, so, and that was his thing, was that, well, there's no men in this study because it's a study on women.
Yeah.
And the response was, well, women are too variable because of their hormones, so you should include men.
How do I? Yeah, but like, it's like studying postnatal, something postnatal,
right.
and like, oh, why you don't have men? Okay.
Right. Exactly. And so to me, when I read that, it was just sort of like this mind blown, like, oh my God, if this is what it is in the industry that is, trying to get everyone to be healthy, and they're saying don't include women because they're too variable. Well, no wonder women my age are confused as to why when they exercise for an hour a day and they eat less calories, why they're not losing weight, or why they're, why they have belly fat or fat wings or whatever it is, those things that happen as women age. So a women's fitness specialist goes more in depth about the hormonal changes that women experience and how they impact you. And it's not just what I loved about the certification that I got was through NASM, the National Academy of Sports Medicine, and it covered from puberty right through menopause, because we're hormonal right from that early age, and it does impact things, and it impacts how we are physically, and what we want to do, and the capabilities we have. So that's what a women's fitness specialist does. It focuses on women in fitness. So
it's becoming more like a holistic thing, like last week I'd interviewed a holistic nutritionist, and we were talking about how food affects your moods and your motivation. So now you said like hormones. So you've got there are a lot of factors that can
Yeah.
motivate or demotivate somebody, not just women, but
Yeah.
and to whether to exercise or not. Like, I don't know if you have, all of us are busy and getting busier, and I think we are keeping ourselves busier with being connected all the time, and that's another thing.
Yeah.
Like, if some people have an addiction to the screen, phone or
Very
computers.
real.
Yeah, they don't know they do, but like they
Right.
do have an addiction, and it makes the quality of life worse, not better. Even though I'm a techie and like,
Well,
and
there has to
sometimes I
be a
don't
balance,
follow. Yeah, sometimes I don't even follow this advice, but
right?
you have to disconnect. And then
Hmm.
now that you've disconnected, you're not watching Netflix and you're not on social media.
What?
Would you exercise? So that's like, you got to have the motivation. You know what I mean? It's like,
Hmm.
and for example, as a person, sometimes I make excuses. Oh, I haven't had breakfast yet. Let me eat and then like have breakfast and then exercise. By the time you have breakfast, it's time to work. So you're
Yeah.
not gonna. I'll do it at night, and then, oh no, it's raining outside. I'm not gonna go for a run.
Yeah.
Whatever it is.
Which is not really a good excuse for someone in Vancouver, right?
Yeah, exactly. With no snow yet.
Could just use that all the time. Um, I I love that you said holistic. I'm actually doing my holistic nutrition certification right now and holistic health coaching, and
It's like you
it's
guys are becoming doctors at the end. Like, you're gonna
oh
look
God,
at all
no.
the
But
chemistry
it's
of the
true.
body. Yeah.
Yeah. And there's a term in, I don't know if the holistic nutritionist you spoke to mentioned it, but it's called bioindividuality. And it
No.
basically means that what works for you doesn't
Of
necessarily
course.
work for your wife, doesn't work for your son or your daughter or me or my husband, or and that it is very individualized based on your preferences, your genetic makeup, your biochemistry. So it is not just fitness, right?
Yeah.
It's not just picking up a weight and putting it down. It's I
Yeah.
pick it up,
No,
I put
there's
it
no
down.
longer one size fits all. It's like we're so diverse, and
Yeah.
even in the same family. It's like, go take a
Hmm.
DNA test, you and your daughter, or me and my son and my daughter, whatever, and you see so many differences genetically.
Hmm.
And what affects me would not probably affect them, and so on,
Right.
unless you have like one specific strong,
Right. But
hereditary. Yeah.
it's very true. There's I don't like using the word diet because everyone thinks it's like
Yeah,
I'm
it means
cutting
diet.
calories,
No,
but
yeah.
when I say diet, I mean what you
The
eat
system,
in
your
what
system of
right
eating. Yeah.
what you eat in the course of a day, however you however you want to call that.
Yeah.
And it was called the plan, and I was turned on to it by my sister and brother-in-law a couple of years ago, and I thought it was just really it's basically an anti-inflammatory diet,
Yeah.
and you eliminate the inflammatory foods and then you add stuff back in to test it out and see what works for you and what doesn't. And I thought it was just incredible because, again, my sister had done it
Mm.
and she could eat certain things but not others. I could eat certain things that she couldn't, and it didn't impact
Yeah.
me the way it impacted her. So it is very much individualized, and that I think is it's exciting, right? Because there's not, you said it, there's not one size fits all. It is very much about figuring out what works for you.
And do you think we are failing at creating the habits? Because if if you take eating healthy and exercising as a change, as a change that you want to make in your life, right? If you don't manage that change, like I sometimes I look at things um like looking at a job, or I used to work in software companies, and big part of implementing any new software is to manage the change that will result from how people are doing their jobs now. And then after you implement that software, they'll change the way they work. So you got to manage this change to get the positive outcome. And if I take this rule and apply it to wanting to be healthy, because it's not just about looking, it's like it's about feeling good. It's about living good. So if you go on
Yeah.
and poison your body, I mean, we're all guilty of different things. Like I love sugary stuff. I love chocolate. Like
Well, why
not,
wouldn't you?
yeah,
It's
not
sugar is
dark chocolate.
addictive.
Yeah, exactly.
Sugar is addictive.
The sugary chocolate. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But I know it's bad, so I'm not gonna consume like a very large amount. But it's kind of like I feel for anybody, if you don't do it as if you don't create it as a habit, and if you don't do it in a way that's easy for you as an individual, with your schedule, with what you do, with your family, with everything else that's on your plate, if you don't do it or plan it in a way that's easy for you to follow, you're setting yourself for failure.
Yeah, I think it goes back to the not having one size fits all, because if I were to say, here, this is what works for me, and it doesn't fit in your
Yeah.
life, it's not sustainable. So it has to be flexible and fit into your lifestyle and your preferences, and how you live with your family. Otherwise, it won't work. I get the question a lot, what's the best cardio to do? The
Yeah.
best cardio to do is the cardio that you like, because if I
Yeah.
tell you to go run 5 miles a day and you hate running, or it bothers
Yeah.
your knees, and you're not going to do it. So is the best cardio for you running? No. The best cardio for you is, what do you like, swimming? Then that's the best cardio, because you'll go do it because it's something you enjoy. So we, as humans, we look for the easiest, right? The path of least
We're
resistance.
lazy by default. Yes.
We are. And it goes back to,
We're not lazy for the 24 hours, but when it comes to taking a decision, we always want to look for the easiest one.
Easiest way, right? The path of least resistance is the way anyone's going to go, no matter what. So it has to fit your life. If I say meal prep on Sunday, and Sunday is a day you spend at church for 6 hours, then that's not going to really work.
Or but out in the park. Yeah.
Right. Or could you meal prep, could you do something on Monday? Could you do something on Tuesday? And that way you're set up for the next 5 days. Does that work better for you? Then do that.
Sure. Yeah.
So, but yes, it is much more holistic than just, I wouldn't say we're like doctors, but
yeah, no, but it actually makes more sense now, because I think the older approach, certainly that was maybe the 80s and the 90s, was like kind of one size fits all. You do 50 push-ups, you do you run for 5 miles, and you eat apples, and that's it. You should be good. And it's like, it actually worked for some people. So we're not saying it doesn't work, but it's just like, now it's more about like everything else, like Netflix, Facebook, Google. They know more about us now. Like if they can hit you with an ad that hits the sweet spot right away, because they know more about you, then this information that you have maybe voluntarily or involuntarily made public should also be used to customize your exercise, your food, things that will work well with your body and your chemistry. Like, that information, you just have to share it with an expert who can actually make it work for you.
Right. Well, and what I really like about health coaching, don't ask Google. Problem with Google, Google's going to come back with a million different things. But the thing that I love about the health coaching is that there is this aspect of, I might be the expert in this field, but you're the expert on you, and you're the expert on your lifestyle and your family and what is going to work for you. And so it's a real collaboration, versus going to a doctor and saying, this is my symptom, and they're like, here's your prescription, this is what you got to do, and that's the answer. So I really like the idea that it's, I'm working with the client to get them to, fix themselves.
So since we are in health in general, we're discussing health. There is COVID, that's anti-health, and the first time. So for the people who don't know, like, we've met on a networking call. It was a Zoom. It was called a Happy Neighborhood, and guys, Happy Neighborhood is free, so anyone can join. I think the West Coast calls are on Wednesday, and all the world calls are on Fridays. And so just go for Happy Neighborhood Project. You can Google it. And I heard that, you had to switch to digital or instead
Yeah,
of doing face to face, and it came as
correct.
like, boom, you're closed.
Pretty much. Yeah, yeah, pretty much. So
And I was
I
interested to
worked,
hear, yeah, what happened? Which
yeah, so
month
I
and what happened?
back in March, uh I worked for a local community center. I don't know, I don't know how specific I should be. I worked for a local community center, and my boss called me on like Friday and said, "We're closed for the weekend because of this, COVID shutdown. The state is telling us we have to close
Mm.
for, the next 2 days." And I was like, "Whatever. I don't
Yeah, it's
work on
just
the
a
weekend."
weekend. Yeah,
I'm like, "I don't work on Saturday or
just a
Sunday. No big
weekend.
deal. Whatever." And then she called me back on Sunday and said, "We're closed for the next 2 weeks." And I was like, "Oh my God, I've got like 2 weeks
Two
off. I
weeks.
don't ever, I'm like, I don't ever take vacation. This is
Yeah,
no
let's do
problem."
something. Yeah.
So the first week, I actually did a whole lot of continuing education, which I never had time for because I was always working and
Yeah.
teaching. And my husband and I had a nonprofit, and it was just like, I was like, wow, I've got this time. I'm going to do this. So the first week, I didn't see any clients and I didn't teach anything. And I just was like learning and like, this is amazing. And I don't have to get up and go to work.
Yeah.
And then the next week came and I was like, oh God, my car payment is due. Like I need to, like, oh, we need groceries. Oh, like, what am I going to do? So I reached out to my boss and said, can I, tell my clients that I'm available to do a virtual session, FaceTime or Skype or whatever. I did actually know about Zoom because our
Mm.
nonprofit had used it in the past. So I was familiar somewhat with it. And she's like, yeah, that's fine. If they're interested, you can meet them and just do your payroll the way you normally would. And so I just emailed or texted my clients and said, if you want, I'm available. And the majority of them were open to it.
Mm.
Of course they were like, well, I don't know what to do, I don't have any equipment, I don't
Yeah.
know. And I said, do you have a gallon of water? Do you have a can of soup? We can work out with something. So the first couple of weeks, that's what we did. I would
Oh,
FaceTime
so these
or
are the
Zoom.
weights.
So we would use, yep, if they needed it. A lot of them did actually have some stuff.
Yeah.
Some of them didn't, and I would just do, body weight workout, but it depends on the client. So I have a client who has a mini home gym, but with her, and we don't really utilize much more than the weights because
Mm.
we focus more on core work and balance. And she's had some knee surgery, so we don't necessarily need the equipment. It just depends on what the goals are. um, and so from there, it just grew. More and more clients were doing it. Less and less people were going to the gym. um, Less and less people were comfortable going when it did
Mm.
reopen. I know a lot of the clients canceled their membership because they weren't utilizing it.
Yeah.
But they wanted to continue to work out. So we were doing Zoom sessions, and or FaceTime again, like I said, whatever. I've been pretty open if they want Zoom or Skype
Oh,
or
so whichever
FaceTime or
app. Yeah.
yeah, whatever. I haven't done Google Meets yet. I haven't done Facebook
Yeah.
video yet, Facebook Messenger, but I've said to them, however it works for you. If that works, most of them do Zoom just because it's easy. They're all familiar with it
Yeah. It
now,
became very
and
famous. Yeah. Last year,
yeah,
it like shot out.
it did. There was a few issues at the beginning, like, oh, I
Yeah.
can't see you, I can't hear you, I can't, but it worked out. I've said many times, for the amount of sessions that I've done, and not just my own personal training sessions, but things like Happy Neighborhood Project and the one-on-ones that I've had after, for the amount of sessions that I've done on Zoom, I really have not had any issues with it, knock wood,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
it's
No,
it's
me
been
too.
very
Yeah.
reliable. Um, so that's how I started. That was
So
my pivot.
the first thing, Zoom saved you in like more or less, like
Yeah.
Zoom and the other apps like it, but like I
Hmm.
think in my opinion, why Zoom became more successful and more famous is because it's so easy to use.
Yeah, it was, I mean, yes. I even the people that were like, oh, I don't see you. I'm like, okay, there's a little video,
Yeah.
see that video icon? Tap that. Oh, there you are. Like, yep, here I am. We're good to go. And it was, it's been a real
So you
blessing.
moved from the face-to-face and you just had to email or text everyone to tell them I'm available, use
Hmm.
whatever device you have, and we can still
Yep.
do the training. Did
Yep.
you have to pivot more and like think about them booking online or like introducing something else into that mix?
Um, at first I didn't, because I was still working through the community center. And then I started to get more and more people. And at that point,
And
it
that was
was
a word of mouth. It has nothing to do
right,
with where you worked before. So
correct.
it was just
So,
you.
referrals, yeah,
Yeah.
referrals. And at that point, it was getting a little overwhelming with text. So I started using Calendly, the
Mhm.
Calendly app, which has been amazing for not just me, but for my clients as well. Because, for I've always just been like, yeah, text
Yeah.
me, let me know if you can't make an
Oh
appointment.
God,
We
yeah.
could
All these
switch
like
it.
10 emails. Does that
Right,
suit
back
you?
and forth. No,
At work, like,
exactly. Can you do Tuesday? I can do Tuesday. Can you do 12? No, I can't do 12.
here's
I
the
can do
link. Pick
1.
up the
Can you do?
time that you like.
Exactly. And so Calendly has been amazing. I went ahead and was like, just take my money. I don't care. Like,
Yeah,
just,
it's
I will
it's
pay
not
for it because it's
expensive.
well
It's what,
worth it.
$8 or something,
$8
$9.
a
Yeah.
month. It's
And
well
the
worth
free
it.
version works as well. Like the free version
Right.
works well.
And that's what I had used at the very
Yeah.
beginning. And then when I
The paid version
actually,
gives you a little bit more, a
a
little
little
bit
bit more.
extra, more
Yep.
customization. And then you can link it with your Zoom so that the
Yeah.
meeting link is inserted automatically. You don't have to do that
Yeah.
yourself.
Which I think is, again, fantastic, because then I don't have to I don't have to start the meeting and then
Yeah.
text the link and then get in. It's just, they have it.
And you get
Um,
these reminders automated. Although
yeah.
mine came at 11 p.m. at night, but like, yeah, it was
Sorry.
12 hours. Yeah, 12 hours before the call. So yeah.
Sorry, there's that
No, but
time
it's an
difference.
email. It's an email. It's not a big deal.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't ring or anything. It's
Yeah. Well, I do. Yeah. Calendly has been amazing, because I just, I get an alert. I'm like, oh, I got an appointment, and I just know. Um, it's
Yeah, I
been
think calendar
fantastic.
booking applications are huge. Like we used to use them, like usually when something like this starts, their target is usually companies because
Yeah.
you've got a company with 20, 50 employees and they all have meetings to do and it's hard to
And it's
organize
time.
and it's hard for the manager to figure out where everyone is at a given moment.
Yeah.
So a tool like Calendly would not just help the organization of these meetings, but it will also write it to your calendar. So if you use
Yes.
Google or Apple or whatever you use as your calendar, Outlook, it would just write that meeting down for
Yeah.
you and block that time so it's not bookable anymore. So, but it's not just COVID, but recently these apps picked up as well because now individuals like we can all use something like this.
Yeah.
It's like even for your personal life,
Yeah.
like you don't usually when my son says, hey dad, I want you to take me wherever on that day, I say, you know what, use my calendar because I can't tell you, I don't know. Like
Yeah.
it's like you go there,
Well,
click the link and
and one of the things I think it's with the paid version of Calendly, you can have up to X amount of
yeah.
calendars. So I have my business calendar and I have my personal account, or family appointments for my daughter and my husband, and I don't put her
Yeah,
orthodontist appointment on my business calendar. That's on our family calendar, but
but you want
Calendly
Calendly
will
to
check.
see it so that it's not going to
Right.
release that time slot
Exactly. So it'll check
instead
and
of
it
just
doesn't.
looking into one place only.
Right.
And that's
Yeah.
the part that like I would like people to think about because like yeah, you could use your calendar directly without having a third party application. But if you have more than one calendar, it becomes more complicated because
Yeah.
either you have to check 3 or 4 places or the person you're talking to has to do that.
Yeah.
Whereby with Calendly, you link all these calendars and then they only get one link with one bookable place and the software does all this checking for you.
Yeah.
And
It's
all what you
amazing.
do, like sometimes I look at my day and I'm booked sporadically throughout the day, and there are some time slots that are not booked, but then I don't want them booked. So what I
Yeah.
just go and block the whole thing in
And
my
block it off.
calendar.
Yep. No, absolutely. Yeah. It's we
Because
actually
there's
just
no
got us.
point. Like there's like half an hour there and 45 minutes there. It's like,
Yeah.
and I need time
It's
to eat. Like,
that you need time to go to the bathroom and
yeah,
do like,
exactly.
yeah, and drink some water and refill
Yeah.
your water. And
Which
it's
reminds
funny
me, yeah.
because my my daughter just got we got a text yesterday saying, who wants to go sledding tomorrow? And I looked at my calendar and was like, I don't have anybody till 4:30. I
Let's go
blocked it
sledding.
off, and
Do you
so
have a
no
hill near
one.
your house?
Her friends have a
Right.
hill nearby at a school, but
We're
yeah, well,
lucky here. British Columbia is full of hills, like
yeah,
all around us, like even where I live.
yeah, but you don't have the snow
But
for
we don't
it.
have the snow for it. Yeah. Yeah, we can't put soap on grass. That wouldn't work.
No,
So,
not so good.
yeah, not a good idea for the grass
Yeah.
or the animals outside.
Probably not. I guess if you had like a natural, non-toxic
Yeah,
something.
I know. Olive oil. I'm Middle Eastern, so like, yeah, just put
Yeah,
some olive oil.
that works. Right
That
on the
works with
bottom of the
everything. Yeah,
right on the bottom of your sled.
you have
You
a
don't need
mosquito bite. Use olive oil, like like the movie. What was
My
it? My
Big
Big
Fat
Fat
Greek
Greek.
Wedding.
Yeah, it was
Windex.
Windex. Be
Yeah.
careful because this shows our age.
That's true, Yeah.
I don't think millennials would know what the hell we're talking about here.
No. No, they don't. I have a couple of clients who are like
Yeah,
in their late teens, early 20s, they're sisters, and they'll say something, and I'm like, oh yeah, that's like the movie, blah blah blah. And
yeah.
they're like,
But
I'm
see,
like, you don't know what I'm talking about, do
now
you?
at least
I'm
they'll
like,
get the
no.
Karate Kid because of Cobra Kai. So, so that's a good
We
thing.
just
Now, yeah.
we just rewatched the early
Wax
on in
on, wax
COVID.
off. Yeah,
Early on in COVID, we started doing, movie nights, and we would watch all the movies that, I'd show my daughter all the movies
yeah.
that I grew up watching. So we watched the original one, and we didn't watch the second or the third one
You know
until
the funny thing,
actually
I
just
didn't know there was a
this week.
third one until I watched
That's
Cobra Kai.
Oh, it's
Like I'm
terrible.
thinking, like, there's a
Ugh.
third one.
Yeah, it's a terrible
It doesn't
one.
have
It's
Billy
awful.
Zabka as well.
No, it's terrible. Yeah.
Yeah,
We just
okay.
watched that 2 or 3 nights ago, and it was like, what are we watching this for?
Yeah.
This
There's
is ridiculous.
some of the sequels, like I haven't seen Back to the Future 3 yet. Like I've done
Okay.
1 and 2, but I haven't
Yeah.
done 3. I have
It's
it, but
like they're dragging it
I
out,
bought it at some point in the 90s, but I haven't watched it.
Yes. Well, like you said, yeah, we're gonna show our age. We keep talking
Yeah,
sequels.
exactly. And yeah, tell them I don't know, Gone with the Wind. That's not our generation, but it's
No.
a great classic.
Yeah. You gotta maybe go back a little further, right?
And every time I see somebody with that name, like, anyway, so let's go back. Yeah, I
Whatever. We can
digress.
still
Hey
chat.
guys, I always
Yeah.
digress. I can't stop talking. I used to be a trainer, right? So it's like I'm always lecturing.
Yep. Me too. Yep.
And yeah, you're not gonna give people some exercises, wax on, wax off, as part of
No,
the
not too
even if they're
much.
over 60 or
Yeah. They would know it. Those people would, but
Mr.
my
Miyagi
younger clients,
exercise. Yeah, Miyagi
yeah,
special. I'm gonna give you.
that's right. He does a lot of breath work. We'll
Yeah,
do that. That's important. That's part of the holistic care, breathing and meditating. And, Miyagi knew what he was doing way back
Miyagi,
then.
exactly. Yeah,
We just didn't know it. We didn't know it.
we didn't appreciate Miyagi enough.
Yeah.
So the first thing is you were forced to bring Zoom into the equation. And
Yep.
then the second one is like, okay, how do people book? And instead of me wasting the time trying to look in 1 million calendars to find when
Yep.
I'm free, I'll just give them one link to make the life easier. Then
Yeah.
what happens next?
Well, I started using Google Forms because they're easy. So when I have somebody new, or even my
Oh, so
clients that
that's
had
like
been
your
with me.
intake questionnaire.
Yep. Yeah.
Okay.
Because they need to, it's how
Told
they
you
sign
you're a
their
doctor.
contract. Yeah.
Like,
It is
you
that
should
there
be
is a
Dr.
whole
Jill. Okay.
there is a whole health history. I mean, there is. It is like
Yeah.
when you go to a new doctor. Could you try? Siri's asking me to
Did you
try
say
again.
hi,
She didn't
Siri? Yeah,
understand.
exactly.
I don't know. So there is I want to know their history with
Mm.
any injuries or illnesses that may
Yeah.
affect them, any medications that they're on, any surgeries, any
Allergies.
any for my women clients, have they gone through menopause? Have they, or are they going
Or
through it?
how are they
That
feeling? Like, do they have,
right.
I don't know,
Yeah.
the heat things? I
Um
don't know what they're called. Like, I'm not a
Hot
woman guy, but
flashes.
yeah, there's
Yeah.
something related to
Yeah,
feeling
any,
hot.
are they experiencing are they experiencing any symptoms?
Sorry,
How
ladies.
do they sleep? How do they, do they follow a special diet? Do they drink alcohol? Have they ever smoked? So it is like, think about
Mm.
when you go to a new
Yeah,
doctor for the first time, all of
it's
those
all the history.
questions.
Yeah.
It is. It's
And it's
I've had
important to
people.
personalize, like, yeah, since you don't have this data from Google and Facebook, they don't make it public. So
Right.
the person has to tell you themselves.
Well, and I've had people in the past say to me, like, can you just put a program together for me? And I'm like, well, I need to talk to you a little bit before. Well, I don't really have time. I'm like, well, then I'm not making a program for you,
Oh, I love
because
that. Like,
it's not, I understand
I get
you
this with
know,
websites as well. Like, oh, I need a
you
new
know,
website. Okay, the first question is why? If you
yeah,
can't answer why do you need a website, like why, then you don't need a website. Like, you know
yeah,
what I mean? Like, if you don't know why,
yeah,
what a website will do to you as a
right.
business,
Exactly.
and you
I'll say,
have
well,
zero
what are your,
content, and you don't have a clue what's gonna go in there, what am I gonna do? Like,
yeah, yep. Well, and that's, people say, well, why do, why do we have to talk? I'm like, well, what are your goals? Well,
yeah,
I just need to start working out.
YouTube is your
Okay.
best friend if that's what you want to do.
Yeah, or find
Yeah,
somebody on Instagram. There's a million people on
yeah,
Instagram you could watch, or Facebook, or YouTube, or I and there's nothing wrong with any of those mm, you know modalities, but if you want something personalized, I need to know about you as a person. Like,
yeah.
I'm not going to tell you to do an overhead press if you've got a frozen shoulder. Like, it's not,
Mm,
I'm like, if you've had a rotator cuff injury, if you've had knee problems, I'm not going to make you do a jump squat. Like,
yeah,
there's,
yeah.
there's a lot of detail. And a lot of times people are like, oh my God, this is like 6 pages long. I'm like, yeah, well, I'm
How many
trying to help you.
questions are there, Jill?
There's a
Like
lot.
what, 30?
Oh, probably at least 30,
Oh God,
because it's
yeah.
like you said, it is holistic. It's,
Yeah.
and
I
it's,
love Google Forms though. They're easy to use. Again, like
yeah.
a winner software here. Um, you could, like, this is the part I did it myself as well. I've got a questionnaire for people who want a website, either a new website or a redesign of the existing. And it's not a long one, of course. I think I have about 10 questions. So it's about 5 to 10 minutes to fill. Yeah, it's an
Shorter than
easy
mine.
one. But yeah, but the thing is, look, I'm a web designer, and I built that form on Google, and I'm still too lazy to go and rebuild it on the website, like as a form, as a website form.
For
But because
yourself.
Google is so easy,
Yeah.
I just integrated it on a page on the website, and I left it with Google. And the reason for that as well, that number one, when somebody fills it, I get notified right away. Number two, I can export everything
Hmm.
that comes from this form in an Excel sheet, like really quickly and easily, which
Yep.
is, it can be done if you build the form as a web form, but then the processing of the form becomes a little bit more complicated. Like, what happens after it's filled, and where does the information live? And usually, one thing that people don't see, if you have a very successful web form on your website, and when people fill it, if the information lives in your website's database, like some forms, they just, when you fill it, they keep the info on the website itself. Number one, for security reasons, you don't want people's detail. Like, if you get hacked, you don't want, if your website gets hacked, you don't want people's personal details to be there. right? Number two, your database is going to just keep growing. The more people who are filling your forms, and then your website will be humongous, then it will be slow. So it's way better to have a form, whether it's a web form or Google form, to actually get the data stay saved and stored somewhere else, not inside your website. And Google does this, like it's on your Google Drive. The chances are you won't be hacked your website and your Google Drive, and like, I don't know, unless you lose your phone or something. But
God forbid.
yeah,
I'd
and
be
then like,
lost.
yeah, if you lose your phone and you don't have a PIN or any sort of login security on it, which is like unlikely in this day and age, but yeah, that's a far-fetched scenario. But in general, you try to keep your pieces of digital real estate apart. Don't put all the eggs into one basket. So the choice of Google Forms, Jill, is brilliant.
Oh, I'm brilliant. I didn't even
How
know
did
I
you
was so
find out?
brilliant.
Like, how did you hit all the like? How did you have to research, or it just comes like a gut feeling, or like how did you end up using these three things like Zoom, Calendly, and because there's hundreds, like for every one of them,
Yeah.
there's hundreds of options.
Yeah. So Zoom, as I had said earlier, my husband and I ran a nonprofit with a friend of ours, and we used Zoom for that. He lived about an hour away, and if we needed to get online, we would do it via Zoom. If we needed to talk with members of our
Yeah.
team and they were, at home, it was just easy. And because we were a nonprofit, I think it was like, I don't think we had to pay anything. So we just, I was like, oh, I know how to use Zoom. I'm going to try that. And so I did it that way. Google Forms I had also used for some of the stuff that we had done on the nonprofit. So I'd had some experience using it for people signing up for events and things. And Calendly, I actually heard about on a podcast from a trainer, an online training group. They trained coaches and personal
That's
trainers and
good.
things.
You're lucky because they gave you the easiest to use,
Yeah,
and it's not just easy, they're not that expensive like Google Suite. I mean, okay, Google, if you have a Gmail, is free, but even
yeah,
if you use the corporate Google Suite, is $5 a month or something.
yeah.
Calendly is about $8.99.
I think Calendly is $8 a
And
month.
even
So
Zoom, when you upgrade to the paid version, is like maybe $14.99 or $9.99. Can't remember the exact. Like, I had an offer from Zoom, and I think I paid $200 for the whole year
mhm.
for like the unlimited thing.
Yeah,
And so at least it's
I
not gonna time me after 40 minutes and then back
yeah.
bang.
Well, and because I only do one-on-ones and I don't
You
have
don't need
multiple
it. Yeah,
people,
there's no
I don't
limit.
I don't
Yeah,
even have the
there's no
Zoom.
limit.
Yeah, I haven't needed to purchase the Zoom yet. So
Yeah.
right now I'm like,
No, that's good.
we'll
I mean,
see.
I've used it from 2018
Okay.
for 2 years and a half. The free
Hmm.
version worked very well. The only reason I upgraded was because it was cheap to upgrade. So I thought, like, let's add this to the arsenal.
Hmm.
Have it,
Yeah.
like, I don't have to worry about it. If I haven't done that yet, but if I ever need to do a one too many call,
Yeah.
or like I don't know, like a live or whatever, then at
Well,
least
and
that.
it is something that I've thought about, that if I am going, I've been asked, are you going to offer classes? And if I do decide to do that, I
Like,
would
not a
need to,
one-on-one,
right, not a
like yeah,
one-on-one. I would need to upgrade to the
yeah.
Zoom, because I wouldn't want to be like, okay, we only have 40 minutes. Let's go. Like no chatting. Let's,
Be quick, yeah.
done. Well, and if
Yeah.
I, it's something I've been contemplating anyway, but the classes I would do would be 30 minutes
There
anyway.
is a
But
secret though. If you click the same link, it still works. It's just the inconvenience of being cut off. But
there you go.
so if you're on a Zoom call on the free version, and after 40
Okay,
minutes is
good to
gone,
know.
just click the same link again and it works. So
Okay,
yeah,
good to
I
know.
think they did it on purpose because they don't want to be so bad to people. Like,
Yeah, not
uh,
now,
yeah.
not during COVID, when, like, when everyone's isolated, they want to at least have people connected.
So
Yeah.
now you're building a software network
I
without
know.
without realizing it.
I
So you
said I
have
wasn't
Zoom
very
hooked
techie.
up to
Maybe I am.
Calendly, and then you've got your Google Forms.
Yeah.
So what happens next?
So once all
How
of
did you
that is
complicate your life more?
well, actually, I made it kind of simple, and I said they can
Yeah.
either do Venmo or or they can pay via Venmo or they can pay via Zelle.
Oh, so you're
And
looking for a way to get your money online, right?
yeah,
Without
because
having to build that on a website. So it's like you want to send
right,
people a link to pay.
yeah.
Okay.
So
So what is it?
most of
You went with Venmo and
Venmo
Venmo.
and then my bank has Zelle.
Zelle?
Yeah, it's
Uh,
I don't know if it's only
how
on
do you
the
spell that?
East Coast. Zelle. So
Okay.
not every
Oh, it's
bank
like
does it.
Zelly,
Yeah,
as if
I
it's
don't
like
know if it's Zelle.
Zilly, whatever. Zell.
Yeah, Zelle.
Zelle. Okay.
Zelle.
Sounds like a
So
washing machine. I know. Like miel.
yeah.
Zelle.
So that's
Okay.
how
So Venmo and
they
Zelle.
could do.
So basically, this is like a payment gateway,
Yeah. It's just
and they just give you a link, right? Like you set up your account there, and
yep.
then you end up with a link that you can send to someone to pay.
Yep. So I have a Venmo account personal, and then I have a Venmo business, that
Yeah.
payments
Okay.
that so that it keeps it separate from my own expenses. Like when
Did
I'm
you
paying
have to
my
go
sister.
open a PayPal as well, or no?
I don't
You don't need it.
I don't
Okay.
do PayPal because I have PayPal personally, and to set it up for business, it was just like,
Yeah.
no, I'm just not going to bother with
Too
that.
complicated. Yeah.
Um, yeah. So, I mean, I had to go to the bank and set up a bank account, a new business bank account
Yeah.
when I became a business, but that was, I
Oh,
figured
yeah,
I'd
because
have
it
to do
was
that
like you
anyway.
used to work in the and we call it a rec center here, in the community
Yeah.
center.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and then the payment used to go, like they would process the payment for
Yeah.
you, get their cut,
I
and then
would
give
just,
you your money
yep,
or whatever. And
exactly.
then
Yep.
now, when you move to
Now people have
online,
to
you're
pay
an
me.
individual. Yeah. But
Yeah.
as an individual, you're not set up as a business, which also
Right.
complicates your tax returns. And so you had to go and set up a
Yeah.
business and
Yep.
get a business bank account.
Luckily,
Yeah.
my husband is self-employed, and our accountant, I just emailed and said, I'm doing this. What do I need to do? And
Oh, like they'll do it. Yeah, set it up for you.
yeah. So she just said, here's what you need to do. We can do it for you. Or, I mean, it was like I had to register as a business. I'm like, I don't need to pay you
Did you
X
become a
hundreds of dollars.
corporation eventually?
I am an LLC.
Yeah.
I'm a limited liability corp. So
But in
keeps
Jersey,
our
not
own.
Delaware. No, just kidding.
No.
Because Delaware, they allow non-US citizens to have corporations there in case
Oh.
you wanted the trading license.
Oh.
There are some regulations,
Yeah.
like you can only trade outside the states, but it will be a company registered in the states, and then you have to pay. I can't remember the name of the tax. There's some tax that you pay on an annual basis, even if your returns are zero. But but I
Got to
think
get our money somehow.
yeah, I think it's like it's good if you have a need for it, but it's also bad because sometimes it's misused, like shell corporations and stuff like that.
Of course. Somebody will find a way, right? They'll.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
everyone should be set up properly as a business, because you don't want to complicate your tax returns. That's the thing.
Yep.
The money that comes to you through your business is money coming to the business, not to you personally. And then you can pay yourself a salary or whatever you want to do. But at the end of the day, keeping those separate, they have a lot of benefits for you. Like your life will be a little bit simpler.
Yeah. Yeah. So I done that when I set myself up as, as the business.
Okay.
And payment usually comes. Well, I have also done, I have a few clients that have been with me for a long time that will pay via check just because they're
Okay.
old school.
Oh, so they
And
send you a
I just,
picture, and then does your bank
no, like,
take a
no,
photo of the check, or you have to go deposit it?
no, I can, my bank, I
Photo,
could do
yeah.
mobile. Yeah, I could do mobile. So they'll actually mail me a check, like with an actual envelope
Oh,
and
it
a
comes with
stamp.
the post with USPS,
Yeah,
and then
like, yeah, it's real, like actual mail.
you
And
can hold a check in your hands.
yes,
Yeah, I
yep.
haven't had
And
this
then
feeling in years.
It's very strange. And I'm
Yeah,
like,
but I don't want to do this in
click.
COVID times, especially that if they lick the envelope.
Well, I'm not licking it,
Yeah,
and I wash my hands when I'm done. So, but
no,
yeah, so it's even when they send a check, I do it,
yeah.
I deposit it mobily from my bank. So
And
easy that way.
so now you've got 4 softwares. I'm assuming you didn't add anything else because that kind of closes the loop now.
Yeah, I don't
Unless,
think so.
unless.
No,
So
I
that's
don't.
it.
Yeah,
Okay,
that's
yeah.
pretty much it for what I use tech wise. I
So
mean, other
Zoom to
than
do the
things like,
sessions,
yep,
and they're one-to-one sessions. And then Calendly for the booking, Google Forms for the questionnaire to learn more about the client,
yep,
and then Venmo and Zelle to get paid online using credit card or whatever, debit cards,
yeah. However they,
however the client wants to do.
however they decide, that's what I accept. So yeah.
So yeah, so this leaves only one part, is the marketing part. So like, what I'm assuming you do a lot of social media, because it doesn't look like you're relying much on a website. Like the word website
No.
didn't come into the conversation. So it's probably social media.
So well, it's funny when you said the people that, they ask you to do a website
Yeah.
and they
They
have
don't
no
know
idea.
why. Like,
That's I'm like, I know I
that's
need it, but
me. Like,
I don't know what to put on it. I don't have any
yeah.
idea. So I don't have a website. I
Oh,
have
you don't
been
have at
doing
all. You don't even have like an old one that you don't use anymore. Oh, you
no,
never had
no,
to have one because you're working again.
I never had,
Wedding
right?
planner. Like they probably have their own. Like, no,
Right.
yeah,
So two things really as far as marketing. I never had to do it because I worked at the community center, and if somebody, took my class and they wanted to train with me, they would just say, I want to train with you. And I'd say, okay, go to
yeah.
the front desk and tell them you want to
Sign up
buy
there.
sessions
Yeah,
with me. And or somebody would come in and they'd say, I want a personal trainer, and these are the things. They would talk with my supervisor and they would say, she would ask them, what are your goals? Why do you need a trainer? Blah, blah, blah. And then she would say, you should work with Jill. So I never had to do any marketing. So this whole thing is very
it's a
new to
word of
me.
mouth. Yeah, it's
Yeah. So,
referrals. It's all.
so for referrals, primarily right now, and then I'm doing some social media. I'm showing my
You probably
age.
don't
I'm
have the
not huge
time.
on it.
Yeah, exactly. No, you
Um,
probably, who's gonna
yeah,
spend two
I
hours a day on?
Right. Not, I don't
Yeah.
have the time to do that. So I do some, I have a Facebook group that I put out to the people that are my friends, and,
Hmm.
they can join. And I do like, I love that they have Facebook scheduler and Instagram
Hmm.
scheduler. That's great. So, once a week or so, I'll sit down and I'll do all of my posts and I'll schedule them out. So that way it's not every day. And that way, once they get posted, I will reply when things come in. I'll, a couple of times a day, I'll
Yeah,
reply to any comments. So it's not hours and hours that I'm spending on
yeah.
social
It's a
media.
quick one, in and out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's I know I probably should be better at it because this is how I am, will generate business. I will say I did do a little challenge at Christmas time. It was the 12 days of fitness, and
Hmm.
I put it out to my group, and I had, about 20 people participate. And out of those, I had 3 people buy sessions. So,
That's
you know,
great.
if
Three
I'm
and
just,
20. That's, yeah, 15%
yeah,
conversion.
and yeah, so it's, I'm doing those little things. And then the other thing I'm doing is a lot of networking, which I
Oh
never had
yeah.
to do.
Yeah.
But Happy Neighborhood Project has been amazing because I have met so many people with and that have led me to different opportunities, things
Yeah.
that I never thought of, like this. I never,
Yeah,
I never
I
like,
like it too. I've only done maybe 3 calls.
oh my goodness, you have to do more.
I learned about it like 6 or 7 months ago. I'm okay. I'm not an introvert, but
I am.
as a
You would never
techie,
know it, but I
really,
am.
you don't
Yeah,
come across as an introvert.
I know, but I am.
But as a techie, the thing is, most of the time I'm busy getting the work done, and I that doesn't leave me with a lot of time to talk about my business and what I do and how I help people.
Mhm.
but when I do, I'm good at it. The problem is like to get myself to sit and and just like take time out
Hmm.
and network.
Yeah.
But I have to say, I shouldn't be lazy, and no one should be lazy, especially that most of the networking now is virtual. Like
Hmm.
I used to go drive downtown Vancouver to attend, events and WordPress meetings and things like that. And now everything is online, so there's no excuse. And you can
Yeah.
see one of the reasons I like the one that we go to, which is the Pacific Happy Neighborhood. It's 11, or is it 12? 12 o'clock, I think. So it's the
Uh,
middle of the day on a Wednesday for
yeah.
me. There's no excuse. Like, because some of the networking events and some of the networking groups like BNI, they meet at
Yeah.
7:30 in the morning. That's torture for me. Like,
Yeah. Well, but you also have children and you have a job and you have,
yeah.
like it's not so easy.
And I used to play soccer when we had soccer before they stopped it. So there was another
Yeah.
thing that I do.
Hmm. So for me, the Happy Neighborhood Project, I actually went back and looked at it at my calendar, and the first meeting I went to, I think, was September. And since September, I have added over 100 people to my LinkedIn connections.
Wow, that's good.
And I never, the first we met on I think it was the Western Canada one.
Yeah.
And for the first couple of times I did it, and I did it maybe for 3 weeks in a row. And then, and then life happened and
Mm.
clients, schedules. And I had only gone to the New Jersey one. And then I realized you don't have to just go to the one where you're located, especially if you are
Yes.
virtual.
Since your classes are online now,
Right. Since everything
your
is
sessions are
virtual,
online. Yeah. You
I
could be
started
training somebody on
attending.
Australia or like, yeah.
Right. So I actually have gotten a few clients from Happy Neighborhood in Colorado,
Okay.
Massachusetts, and I think she's in Florida, but she may have moved.
Wow,
So
you went all the way
yeah.
south. Okay.
So that's, well, like I said, my
Yeah.
goal is to make it down where it's warm.
Where it's sunny. Yeah.
But yeah, where it's sunny and warm. So the Happy Neighborhood Project, the first time I did it, I was like, oh God, I'm gonna have to talk to people. Like, I don't want to do this. And it's like so weird and embarrassing and like awkward. But once I started doing it a couple of times, and I started, because I only went to the New Jersey one, I saw the same people over and over, and
Yeah.
they
Like
were
you
giving
become,
me,
yeah, you become
yeah,
known.
familiar.
Yeah.
And I had a couple of one-on-ones, and the feedback they were giving, because I am thinking, I'm like, oh my God, I'm so awkward and this is so strange. And I spoke to the people I spoke to were like, you didn't sound like, you sounded like you
Yeah.
knew what you were doing. And I was like, really? Because I'm thinking I sound like an idiot. But it's because I'd never done it before. And now it's just second nature. Like, I'm like,
It's
okay,
the
this
two
is who I
minute
am.
pitch, right? You've got enough
Yeah.
time, even if
Yep.
you want it to be awkward. Like you've got the
Right.
time for it.
Exactly.
You don't
Exactly.
have to go bang, 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 bang in 30
Okay.
seconds.
Right. And so Happy Neighborhood Project introduced me to a woman who actually lives about 10 minutes from where I am. And she and I had a one-on-one, and she's part of a women's networking empowerment group. And she invited me to that meeting. And so I did that. And I ended up joining, and I've met so many different people and have like all these different opportunities. Yeah, today I had a meeting with somebody who's in England, and she invited me to host one of her coaching sessions, and I
Wow.
never would have
Okay,
done any
cool.
of this. Yeah, like you
You have
invited
to
me to be on your
practice the accent.
podcast.
Okay, repeat after me. Water.
Yeah, it's just I think it's just
Yeah, that's
been
really cool.
amazing. Yeah, it's been really amazing. I met somebody else through Happy Neighborhood Project who invited me to a networking group, and I met somebody there who invited me to the New York based one. And I've had, now I'm working with somebody who does concierge services through hotels in the city, who,
Oh,
wants me
this is
to
really
offer
nice
training.
because you could
So
exactly
it's
because
things
like
I never ever would have thought of.
yeah, ideas, new ideas on how
Yeah.
to deliver more of what you do really well
Yep.
to another group of people who would otherwise have no option.
Right. They'd have no option. And I never would have met them, right?
Yeah.
Like
Through the
it's
traditional, yeah, exactly.
I never would have met someone in West Canada because I'm not like I don't foresee them like
Hey,
especially
we're
now
next
like
door. We're not that far
right.
away. Just stop there.
It's just like 6 hours, whatever.
Yeah,
By
if you get
flight.
lost upstate New York, you'll find yourself in Montreal. But
So I just it's been so the marketing has been an interesting thing for me because again it's not something I've ever done. I if you had said to me 3 years ago, if you had said to me a year ago now, would I ever imagine that I could do virtual personal training? I'd be like, that doesn't even
what?
make sense.
Yeah.
Why would you do that? Like, I have to be next to the person. I have to
Yeah.
say, here's your weights. I have to be able to walk around them. But it doesn't. I don't have to. Like this morning when I was with a client, I said to her, all right, now I need you to turn 90 degrees so I can look at you from the side.
Yeah.
It's like it's not a big deal. Like so her to move versus me to just walk
They
that
just
way.
have to put their phone somewhere stationary, right? Like
Pretty much, yeah.
on a table or whatever. Like, yeah.
Most of them either do it via a laptop or an iPad.
Okay. So it's just like, yeah, it stands on its own.
Yeah, it stands on its own. They'll if they have to, they'll adjust. You know, I'll say I can't see your feet, just tip your screen down. Like I don't need to
Yeah.
see your upper body, I need to see your lower body now. And so it's, you know, it's been really amazing how it's changed. Like,
Wow. So it's funny because like this means that COVID opened new opportunities. And I mean,
yeah.
sometimes people feel guilty saying that COVID did them well because, of course, some other people like had,
Yeah.
some people died and some people were very sick and some people lost, well,
Some people
not
have lost
some,
their
like
jobs
including me.
and
Like I had a part, like I've always been an entrepreneur, but I also worked on, I had a contract that was canceled because of COVID again, like, and that was
Mhm.
kind of 90% of my income at the time. And I had to pivot for the rest of the year just to get back into close to what I used to earn after
Mhm.
losing that. So yes, there is a lot of hardship, but there are a lot of opportunities if you keep an open mind and you adapt to what's
Mhm.
going on. And in your case, I mean, I love the story because this is what I do. Like I keep telling people to switch to digital. You don't have to switch all at once. You don't have to switch all your business, but think about what part of my business can I digitize now? And with some of the softwares that we have discussed today, they're all easy. They're all online. There's nothing to install. You know, you just pay whatever you pay monthly, and some of them they even have a good free version. And that's it. You're up and going. It's kind of
Yeah.
you take something out, and usually you should start with the process that's giving you most of the headache. In
Mhm.
in the I mean, I worked for corporations and I worked for the government before, and I had a CEO who once said the first thing to automate is the process that has the queue. So if you have customer service somewhere and there's a queue of people, that's the first
Yeah.
thing that you digitize. That's the first thing that you give priority to. The same example that I was saying earlier off camera, the liquor stores, when they became too busy in COVID, and they're only allowed a certain amount of people in the shop at once. And the
Yep.
only way to do it is to release some time slots online. Otherwise, everyone will come at the same time and there'll be a queue outside, which defies the purpose of trying to,
Not have
control
people,
the
right.
number that comes in. Yeah. So things like that, like, and these things are like small steps that anyone can do. You've done it on your own, which is great. And I remember you were saying, "Oh, I'm not techie at all."
Yeah.
So here you go. Like, and
Look,
and yeah. So people, yeah, you don't need me anymore. You can do it on your own.
techier than I thought, I guess.
Yeah, but when you need the website, you guys are gonna need me. But for to pivot like Jill, you don't need anything. You can just go online and yeah, and get it all done. And if you have questions, of course, I'll answer them, or we can send them to Jill.
No, they'll have to book a session on my Calendly because I don't.
To
It'll
answer
take
tech
me a long
questions.
time. Yeah.
Yeah, people start asking about Zelle and Venmo.
Yeah, that is definitely worth a session. They'll have to book on
Yeah.
Calendly because I don't. It might take me a while to explain.
Perfect. Well,
Yeah.
Jill, thank you very much for being my guest today. I really enjoyed this conversation.
Honor, thanks so much for inviting me. This was a lot of fun. And it was, like I said, it was something I never would have thought to even participate in before COVID. So it's really fun.
Perfect. I hope people will learn a lot from us or hate us. I don't know, but let's wait and see.
You know, I'm not the trainer for
No, no,
everybody,
I'm
you
just
know,
kidding, kidding.
it is what it
I
is.
have like the my listeners base are all very cool people, and I know most of them. Well, I mean it's growing, but like when it started, I knew most of them personally. And you know, like with YouTube and stuff, like I put these sessions on YouTube and on all like the famous podcast places like Spotify and iTunes and so
Okay.
on. And YouTube, most of the people who comment, like 9 times out of 10, is someone I know.
Okay.
But on the audio, like I have no idea. It's just growing on its own.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and I didn't want to do a podcast, but I didn't know how to do a podcast, and I thought that it's going to be too complicated. And then like a friend of mine encouraged me and pushed me to it, and he's got a great podcast, and I did it, and here we are.
You are.
Yeah.
And it doesn't feel so terrible now, right?
No, no, and I hope it's entertaining as well. That's my goal. Like I want people to learn something new, like walk away with at least 1 point and have a little bit of fun listening to us. So I think
Oh,
we've done that today. So thank you,
I
Jill.
hope so. You're very welcome. Thank you again. It was great to meet you on Happy Neighborhood Project.